welcome to Zenterno Radio, where we drop the truth gems all along the way. This is going to be episode number 46, and the title of today's episode is Public Leaders and Academia. Episode 46, Public Leaders and Academia. Let's go. So recently I had listened to CBC Radio. This is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, for anybody who doesn't know, as being in Canada here. So that's the number one media, quote unquote, out here. So I was listening to they call it a podcast themselves, but it's the radio broadcast. And the guy that hosted, named Matt Galloway, was interviewing Yuval Noah Harari. So I'm always the type of individual to keep my ear to the streets and always listening to the movers in the world and those who have influence and sway over what gets done down here and, in countries, etc. And that's the way to be. And I'm going to, just by saying that, I have to teach some people here. When I was in school, I learned to hang around the smart children, so the ones who were the A+ students. If I knew to myself that if I was to succeed, if I was to do well in school, I needed to hang around those who were doing very well, instead of hanging around those who were smoking and doing drugs or whatever and not paying attention. I wouldn't hang out with them. I was always cool with everybody, but I would hang out most so, especially when I was doing my work, with the A+ students. And that's how you succeed in life. So it's the same thing. Now here we are as adults, and I look at the world and I say, okay, well, am I going to hang out and listen to those who are on the corner not doing anything with their bum in life? No, I'm going to listen to those who have influence. I'm going to listen to those who are making moves. And this is how you do better in life, period. So please, whoever's listening to this, take that advice. If you're not doing that, start implementing that. You're going to change your life. I guarantee it. So anyways, I'm listening to Harari, and he said a few things. It was very interesting, the fact that I was kind of shocked because they're supposed to be talking about AI. Oddly enough, he ended up talking about the Christ, but he used the false name and he said Jesus. And it was I was very interested that he would talk about that. So his first thing he was pointing out was basically about false information. This is what he was trying to say. So I have a quote here, and I listened to his thing, and this is what he was saying. He said, Harari says, so this is what he said: we don't know what, and he says the false name Jesus looks like or looked like portraits created based on fiction. Not a single word describes what the man, again speaking of Messiah or Christ, looks like. Incorrect. And here's how I'm going to prove it. So Zenterno Radio is going to drop some jewels right now. Okay, so he's saying we don't know what he looks like. There's not a single word. It's just a false image. We just painted this or came up with this image all of a sudden, and then that's the image that the Christ is, and so then everybody accepts that. Okay, so now he's accurate in a certain way, but I'm going to expose everything in its entirety right now. So we do know a description of we may not know exactly every detail, but we have a pretty doggone good detail in the book of Revelation. So it's Revelation chapter 1. And I'm going to read from 9 to about 19 or even 20. And we're going to see what he looks like, okay? Or some description. So I, Yochanan is John, both your brother and co-sharer in pressure and in the reign and endurance of Yahushua HaMashiach, came to be on the island that is called Patmos for the word of Yahweh and for the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Now this is very interesting. He said he came to be on the island of Patmos for what? The word of the Most High, and for the witness, the belief in it, belief in Messiah, right? Yahushua HaMashiach. We know that the Romans were ruling at that time. If you go back into the gospel, the Most High, the Messiah, prophesies that Jerusalem shall be ransacked and destroyed. This took place in about, I believe it was 70 AD, 70 AD, Anno Domini, 70 AD. And we all know that, Yahushua ascended around 30 AD. Okay, so he was 33 years old, and that's where the whole Illuminati and the Freemasons, they love the 33. So that's that. He prophesies about that. So some 30-something years later, 40 years later, this prophecy comes to pass. And in that exact time, the saint or the disciple John Yochanan is captured, obviously, by the Romans because they ransacked Jerusalem. Everybody had to flee, but John was also captured, and they exiled him on the island of Patmos. So the year is 70 AD. Just remember that figure. It's 70 AD. Let's continue. Verses 10. Revelation 1, we're at 10. I came to be in the spirit, the Ruach, on the day of the Lord, of Yahweh, and I heard behind me a loud vocal as a trumpet, saying, I am the Aleph and the Tav, so the first and the last, and write in a book what you see and send it to the 7 assemblies of Asia, to Ephesus, to Smyrna, and to Pergamos, and to Thyatira, and to Sardis, and to Philadelphia, and to Laodicea or Laodicea. And I turned to see the vocal which spoke with me, and having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the 7 lampstands, one like the Ben of Adam, the Son of Man, dressed in a robe to the feet, and girded the chest with a golden band, a golden belt. So we already know how he dresses. He dresses in a white robe, and he dresses with he had a gold belt around his waist. Okay. And his head and hair were white as wool. So we already know his color. The color of his hair was white. But the likening of the type of texture here is given. It says wool. So we all know that sheep, if you look at sheep have that puffy, curly kind of hair, but it's white. So when it says like white wool, it's exactly the same. What people group on the planet, on Earth, have a kind of woolly type of hair. It's so-called black people, right? So-called black people have curly, woolly kind of hair. They don't have the straight, single, thin hair that they portray the quote-unquote false name Jesus as, with that long, straight hair. That's not how he looks. Okay, so again, and his head and hair were white as wool and as snow, and his eyes a flame of fire, so dazzling, fiery eyes. And his feet were burnished brass, as if refined in a furnace, and his vocal as the sound of many waters, as the ocean. Okay, so then to go to the skin, we can go to the skin color here, because it talks about his feet are what? Burnished brass. Now brass is brown, and it has a copper color. But now you refine it in a furnace, or if I burn brass, what happens to anything that burns? It becomes very dark. Right? It becomes black, if you will, so-called. And so, therefore, we already know what he did look like. We've already got the scripture of his hair, of his skin, and of his eyes. Even the way he dresses, his robe, which is a white robe, a girded belt, golden belt. This is the Messiah. This is the King. Fiery eyes. Okay? And in his right hand he held 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword. And his face was as the sun shining in its strength. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he placed his right hand on me, saying, Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I became dead, and see, I am living forever and ever. Amen. And I possess the keys of the grave and of death. Write therefore what you have seen, both what is now and what shall take place after these, or what is to come. And then it says, verse 20, the secret of the 7 stars which you saw in my right hand, and on the 7 golden lampstands. The 7 stars are messengers, and the 7 assemblies, and of the 7 assemblies, and the 7 lampstands which you saw are the 7 assemblies, or the churches, right? Actually, it says assemblies, and that's the correct word as well, because I've been learning that church is really Circe, and it's the goddess, and we've learned so many different crazy words. But anywho, so that was the first point that Harari got wrong. So I had to expose this, and we have to teach and edify. Okay, so we don't know what he looks like. Yes, we do know what he looks like. And then again, when it comes to the false name, I don't have to repeat it for some who haven't, but for those who have never heard of this, I'm going to repeat it. Jesus is not his name. The letter J, first and foremost, he never spoke this language, which is English. So in English, they came up with the letter J in the 1600s. Okay, so even people in the 1500s did not have they didn't have words like joy, because the letter J did not exist. So his name was never Jesus, and we have to start to understand that. He was Hebrew, they spoke Aramaic, Hebrew, it was ancient, this is 2,000 years ago. It's a different language, different culture, the disciples, nobody referred to him. The disciples didn't refer to him as Jesus. Nobody did. We've been taught a lie only in the last 400 years, actually. It's the last 400 years. Okay, in regards also to the false image, which is really Cesare Borgia, Caesar Borgia, okay, who's the son of Pope Alexander VI of Rome, has a sister named Lucrezia, okay, Borgia. The whole Borgia family was twisted. I think people, didn't they have the series of the Borgias? Do some history. They were a twisted, wicked family. The baby had a brother. The brother had a baby with the sister, or the father had the Pope had a baby with the daughter. Some crazy crap. Okay, this is what it is. Okay, so and the Pope himself took Cesare Borgia and said, I went to Leonardo da Vinci, said, draw me the image of, we're going to say Christ is what? Draw me my son's painting, and we're going to say that this is Jesus Christ. And then they came up with this lie. This was all in the 1500s, okay? And because of Rome and the Catholic Church. So that's a beast system that lied, and for 400 years, people have believed this lie. So this is the problem with a lot of people, okay? So that's a great expose. If you don't believe me, go research. Go figure it out, because everything I told you is the truth. So that's Harari's X number 1. Now, on the second part, he had another part where he also referred to the Christ himself and the Messiah, and this is what he said. He said, for almost, and I can't believe he said that, because he's supposed to be some sort of historian, and he's supposed to really understand all this stuff, and I can't believe he doesn't understand this. It just goes to show you why, and this is why I want to kind of expose some of these public leaders, because why are we allowing certain public leaders to be like, oh, these are our leaders, and they shall influence us, and we will allow them to speak the way they will, and we will all obey what they say. They're not the smartest bulbs in the batch, okay? So he says this. Harari says, for almost 400 years after Jesus, quote unquote, Messiah, there is no New Testament. Buzzer again, incorrect. That is incorrect. So jumping back to what did I say earlier? I said about the island of Patmos, 70 AD. We know that the last book of the Bible, which is the book of Revelation, okay, Apocalypse, the Apocalypse, the Revelation, that's the last book that was added into the Bible, and it was the last book to be written. And guess what? That same timeline was 70 AD. So since that is 70 AD, that is not 400 years later. You're not even at the year 100, and we've already completed the Bible, right? And so the New Testament was already complete by 70 AD, okay? That's what we know. That's what we all understand. It's literally in the book. In that book, he says, I'm on Patmos. He was exiled. For what? The witness. He understood Yahusha. He understood the Messiah. He understood the Most High. The Romans captured him. They did not like this, obviously. He was being exiled at the same time. Read the history books. Rome ransacked Jerusalem in 70 AD. So we already know, there again, Harari is incorrect, and I have to just expose that and teach a little bit edification here. Okay. Now, I did want to add this because he did speak certain truth when it actually was regarding Netanyahu, who I call Netanyahu. Okay. So if you hear me say Netanyahu, you should understand I'm talking about Netanyahu. Okay. The Israeli guy. Okay. Israeli leader. I did. Let me see something. So he had said, like, if he had Netanyahu there, what would he say to him? He said, if all you care about is power and violence, be strong, be strong. We've wasted 2,000 years. And so I said 2,000 years in regards to the time, of course, since Messiah. It's interesting. Yet again, he's referring to him who, I kind of find it funny because I don't think they believe in Messiah, yet he keeps referencing him. But anyways, but he's correct when he says that. If, these leaders, these psychopathic leaders, these lunatics, if all you care about is power, violence, be strong, take people out, doesn't matter, right? Oh, you're strong. Oh, you're a fool. You're a fool. Now listen, the scripture says, the Most High repays every man according unto his deeds, whether they be good or whether they be bad. So a lot of peace just hit me today when I said that to myself. I was like, exactly. When you can have so much peace, because no matter how crazy the world can be, which is people, You have to realize you didn't create those people, and the Most High himself is the one who will judge everyone according to their own deeds. So it relieves so much stress, and all you have to worry about is what? You have to worry about your path. You have to worry about your soul salvation. You have to worry about yourself. That's it. Doesn't mean you don't have community. Doesn't mean that you don't share anything. But the burden of carrying so much weight of the world and the this and that, nobody should be doing that, And so I just have to share that. That is, I do agree with one point that Harari did say about that, which was interesting, that he's against Netanyahu there. So I do appreciate that. But other than that, he was incorrect, especially when it came to the Messiah Christ. I have to expose that. I also want to jump and also correct. So the same thing with the description of Messiah is that Paul, as also known as Shaul or Saul in the New Testament, and Moses from the Old Testament, both of these men were mistaken for Egyptians. So I wanted to also give a reference to that, and we can quickly go through that, and then we'll continue. Okay, so in regards to Moses, we'll go to Exodus 2:16-19. It says, "Now there was a priest of Midian with 7 daughters. They used to come to draw water and fill the troughs of water to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses sprang to their help and watered their flock. When they returned to their father Reuel, he said to them, 'Why are you back so early today?' Question: An Egyptian protected us from these shepherds, they said, and he even drew water for us and watered the flock." And it keeps saying, "Where is he?" He asked his daughters, etc. The point is that the daughters, they confused Moses for an Egyptian. Okay, so he's being mistaken for an Egyptian. Okay, keep that in perspective. I'm going now to Paul. Paul is being mistaken for an Egyptian. So we got Acts 21:38. "Aren't you the Egyptian who started the recent revolt and led those 4,000 cutthroats out into the desert?" "I?" said Paul. "I am a Yehudi and a citizen of the well-known city of Tarsus of Cilicia. Please give me permission to speak to the people." The man gave his consent to, and Paul, standing at the top of the steps, raised his hand to the people for silence. A profound silence followed, and he started speaking to them in Hebrew. Okay, so we have two significant figures in the faith who are being mistaken for Egyptians, but they're obviously Yehudi. They are obviously the people of the chosen. They speak Hebrew, okay? You couldn't be confused for an Egyptian. If one was dark-skinned and one person is light-skinned, you're not going to confuse them. If you go into the pyramids today, you can see the hieroglyphs. There are multiple dark-skinned peoples. And even if they're not super dark, they still have a darker tone, and they're like brown to a darker tone, okay? Even a so-called black. And when you look at those images, those are Egyptians. The Hebrew Israelites are also being confused with these people. Well, if they're being confused, obviously they looked like those people. They look like the Egyptians in certain features. Now, does not the chosen people who were those suffered under the curses, Deuteronomy 26, Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus, I think 26, and the slave descendants look just like those who are in Africa, so-called Africa today? Yes, they look pretty much the same. And it would be hard to differentiate. Just like some people say Asians all look alike. Well, then most blacks, so-called blacks, all look alike to a lot of people too. And that's just the truth. So they were being confused for the same, for different people groups, even because of the, again, skin color and the hair and etc. like this. So we're just throwing that out to expose who the people are, how Messiah looked like. We do know what they look like. We know his people. We know what the curses are. It's all through study, and nobody could make this up. This is the faith. This is the truth. All of this is real history. And the Most High's people are the chosen, but everybody who follows him is the chosen. Okay, so it's his grace. It's walking through faith, through his grace, his power, heaven first. And it's not about skin color. It's not about the flesh. The flesh is decaying and is dying, and we all know that. We are all perishing in the flesh. But the spirit must be renewed day by day. Therefore, we shall live with him. You know, when I read the description of Messiah there, man, it makes me feel like so humble. You know, that's the master. That's the master of masters. the King of Kings. So it's a beautiful thing. Now, speaking of peoples who look very similar, Netanyahu, who I call Netanyahu, looks very similar to. I had a neighbor some long time ago, and hails from Bulgaria. And if you look at a map, there's a place called the Black Sea, or there's a body of water called the Black Sea. Well, the Black Sea is around Russia, Ukraine, right? Bulgaria, okay? Multiple of these countries in Eastern Europe, yeah? The peoples who are the Ashkenazi people, bloodline, come from, they call it the Khazarian Empire. They are from that region. So I find it very funny when I look at Netanyahu, I see a man who looks just like my Bulgarian neighbor. And I say, isn't that interesting? So here you have a people that looks very similar. Why? Because they also share a very similar heritage or background. Just as much as the Hebrew Israelites shared a very similar heritage and background as the so-called Egyptians, who are so-called Africans today, right? So we can see a correlation of who's who. So I find it very funny when, again, we already know that the Ashkenazis, who in Genesis, if to refer and to double check what I'm saying is true, please read Genesis chapter 10, when it talks about who's the son of Japheth, Shem, and Ham. If you see Japheth's lineage, you're going to see there's a man named Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is the man where you get the name Ashkenazi. And I have to just say this, regardless of how people take it or not, the real Nazis are these people. This is where the word comes from, the Ashkenazis. So in World War II, when the Zionists, actually this happened, they declared war on Germany. The Zionists did. These are Ashkenazi people. So the real Nazis were the Ashkenazis. But they claimed that Hitler and the other Germans were the Nazis. And so there's such a convolution of twisted narratives, scapegoating, throw the poop over there, but I'm really the poop, you know what I mean? And this is what they've done. It is what it is. Double check what I'm saying, but that's the truth. So the Ashkenazis, Netanyahu is just like the Bulgarian neighbor. They're not from that land. The whole concept, that is such a recent issue. Since World War II, ever since World War II, that's how they got in the land. That's not even 80 years yet, right? We're coming up to like 80 years, I think, since the end, 1945. I guess 2025, probably 80 years, right? It's, so 79 years. For 79 years, they've been in the land over there. And it's not their land. It was never their land. They used World War II as an excuse. It was a whole psyop. It was a whole setup. And the Illuminati letter from Mazzini to Albert Pike talks about making war with Islam. And what are they doing right now? That's all they're doing. Nothing but war in Islam, with Islam. They're following their thing to a script. It's a Freemasonry, it's Illuminati. It is what it is, it's the truth. Don't let it bother you, just see the truth for what it is. This is who these people are. They're not the Israelites. They were not the chosen. They're a scapegoat people. In the book, also in the Revelation, he says, I know who the synagogue of Satan is, right? Them that call themselves Jews or Yehudi and are not. So we know who they are. The so-called Ashkenazis, the real Nazis. This may be harsh to some, but this is just facts. It's just the truth. And it's better to have a hard wake-up call than a slow dream when you wake up into a horrible torment when the Most High destroys all the wicked, and you fall prey to that same thing because you believe the lie. It's better to wake up now while there's still time. Praise be to the Most High, always. Lastly, talking about public leaders, academia. Well, now it's not as much academia, but this is a public leader. I got to talk a little bit about P.Diddy, who I call P.Dibbley. Okay, so P.Diddy, dibbling and dabbling, scrambling. This guy is garbage, okay? He's a soul seller. Just call him, let's talk and say what he is. He's a soul seller. He sold his soul. Regardless if he's an informant for FBI and this and that, it doesn't matter. He's a soul seller. He sold his soul. He served the devil. He's done wicked things. He set people up. He's done all type of trash, okay? So whatever's happened to him it's you again. Every man is being paid according unto his deeds. Whatever the heck he's dealing with right now has to do with all the shit that he's done in the past, and he deserves it. So he's I had to write this down. He's literally the legion of demons, right? Allegiance. He pledged allegiance to Satan. He's the legion. Him and all his ilk, people like him, Epstein and all that stuff. He is the legion of they are the legion of demons cast out from the pig, right? In the gospel, the demoniac and everything. That's what they are. They're a legion of demons. Okay, helly weird, otherwise known as Hollywood. And if people don't know, I learned many years ago that the holly tree was used by wizards and witches to cast spells, and that's why they called it Hollywood. So it's crazy that, there's a thing called Hollywood, and they make nothing but images and pictures and media to control the people and how they think and what they see. So lastly, I'm going to just say this. I did write this down. I said, imagine a world where we had no media. We would live in a more peaceful world, because the West has been destroyed by the media. From the sexualization, the porneon, to drugs, to violence. It's all in the movies. It's in the music. It's even in the news media is what I'm saying. And they orchestrate these things. They orchestrate the violence. They orchestrate the garbage. They rile up the people and they create chaos. My call in Zenterno Music, Zenterno Radio's call to you who are listening to me today is to say, you better answer. You better say and make a decision today and say, no, I will not be a victim anymore. I will not pay attention to what they keep showing me. I will not get upset and fearful because they keep telling me to be fearful. Lastly, I'm going to say this. There's 2 movies that they just recently came out with, and they really want this to happen. They really want a civil war, okay, in America. The United States, they really want a civil war. It was back, in the fall time last year, 2023. Barack Obama supposedly had an impact in directing some or writing some of this movie called Leave the World Behind. That was the destruction of America, but the destruction of America from within. And then you have another movie that was released in April, and they called it Civil War. And why are they creating these images? Or are they just creating it because they want people to be aware? Or is it the fact that they want people to be controlled, because it's another control mechanism, and they keep riling up the division? They got another assassination attempt, another on DT, okay, Mr. Trump. And what do you think it's going to happen in November when the election, no matter who wins? They've riled up the tension, polarized. The electricity is friction, two sides. Then now everyone wants to go at each other when something goes astray on the election. All I'm saying for Zenterno, people who are listening, don't get caught up in it. Don't get caught up in it. But all I can say is this: be self-defense if you have to. Have self-defense. Be able to take care of yourself and your family. That's all I'm going to say. But do not be the aggressor. Do not be the aggravator. Do not get caught up in what they want. What they want is a civil war. That's why they made the movie. They want you to be just like the actors and actresses who start freaking out and whatever the hell's happening in those movies. They want you to be the same. They want you to be so confused. Leave the world behind. Those people, they were such a stupid movie. When I saw the actor, they're just so confused. They don't know what's happening. They don't know, like they say, the ass from the hole in the ground. This is what it is, man. So you got to wake up. People have to wake up, smell the real life, smell the fresh air, get back into what's real, have love. The Most High is the King of the universe. Accept Him into your life. He's the one who will guide and direct you. He will direct you in the way that you shall go. Each man's destiny is unto himself. You have to take care of self, then take care of family and the community, etc., etc. To be pushed in a direction that is nonsensical, that is to be so influenced, so manipulated, because these other flesh blood people, they're just flesh blood bone and poop, as I call it. I'm not going to let any man direct or steer me. So Zenterno Radio is accept the Most High, and we are a beacon. We are Zenterno Radio, and Zenterno Music is a beacon of the Messiah, the Most High, the light, and we will always be this. So praise be unto the King, Yahushua HaMashiach, by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. Don't get caught up in all the hype. Don't get caught up in all the he say, she say, and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Know thyself. And that is about tapping into knowing what your purpose is, who you are, what you're supposed to be doing here. And only good things will come out of that. If you continually are in fear, you're continually being victimized, you're continually put in a low state, you're going to live in misery. And that's exactly what they want. They want miserable people so that they can control the misery. They can control what's happening. But when you're shining and you're vibrating high, they can't control you. And you're on a good side. That's the thing. You will not do rituals and wicked things at all. So this is Internal Radio. This was episode 46, addressing public leaders, Mr. Harari, P.Diddy, and Netanyahu. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to share, support, come to zenternamusic.com, as well as Zenterna Music on YouTube. We're trying to grow the channel. We're beyond 8,000 subscribers right now. Please join us on the journey. We have some exciting news to share very soon. I'm going to be making another episode very soon. And everybody will just have to stay tuned to find out what I'm talking about. So until next time, peace and shalom. Support Zenterna Music. And we'll catch you guys for episode 47 real soon. Peace and shalom.